That's so embarrassing.
I felt so dumb.
Can I just disappear?
Embarrassing Stories Podcast with Leslie and Derek. Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Embarrassing Stories Podcast with Leslie.
That's me. And Derek.
That's me. We're super excited to get this podcast going and share some good stories with you each week. Before we get into the first story, we thought we'd quickly share a bit about us so we can formally introduce ourselves. So Leslie and I have been married for 13 years, and we have 5 kids. We have 4 boys and 1 girl. So Leslie is what I call my pie. She's my partner in embarrassment.
Is that because I'm the embarrassing one?
No, well, we're embarrassing together. We both kind of bring out the embarrassment in each other. I think we're pretty good at that.
Yep.
But Leslie, is there anything else you want to add to that?
I think you covered it pretty good,
Okay.
telling everyone how embarrassing I am.
Well, you're not alone. I'm just as embarrassing, and all of you listening, you'll find out just how embarrassing we both can be. So on this episode, we have 4 really good stories that we're excited to share with you guys. I think Leslie has the first story, so she's going to go ahead and get right into that. So Leslie, take it away.
Yeah, this episode is filled with a lot of bodily
Function mishaps. And those will always create some embarrassing moments. So.
Yes. So we're going to start off with Melinda from Utah, because who doesn't love a good pee story?
Ooh, interesting.
Okay, so Melinda was going to go to her 11th grade winter dance. Her date decided it would be fun to go sledding, but Melinda's not very adventurous. She says that hill was way too steep for her liking. There was a big group of them that went, and it really couldn't have been much better. Her date was cute, and they had such a fun time together. One of her best friends and her decided to go down the hill together. The boys were pushing them, but last minute they changed their mind. The bad thing was the momentum had already picked up when the boys grabbed the sled and it went flying out from under them. Melinda and her best friend just continued down the hill.
Who needs a sled?
They didn't.
Slide down the hill.
She was so scared. She full-on Peter pants.
Oh, no.
She ended up having wet pants for the rest of the date. She tried to sit in the snow to drench her pants so that nobody would know that she peed her pants. And then she said she tried a slew of other things to make herself more wet.
I'm sure she had a bunch of thoughts going through her head. How can I hide this? Yeah, well, what do you do in a situation like that? I mean, if I was her, I would probably just go try to sit in the snow too and play it off, but yeah, that's
I'm not sure. I probably would have gone home. Can you run me home? I need to grab something real quick and change. Oh, man. They then all went together and watched a movie at a friend's house afterwards. She doesn't know why she didn't think to ask to go home. Looking back, she's pretty sure everyone could smell her.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's the thing.
embarrassing.
Sometimes you can do things to hide that. Like the snow is there, so it's nice you have that to kind of hide in. But yeah, you can't. Masking smells can be really difficult.
Yeah. She probably should have been like, oh, I'm freezing. I'm so wet. Let me go home and change. What stinks was her date was really cute.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been hard. I mean, it's hard anyways, even if he wasn't, but.
Definitely not how you want a date to go, but sometimes those things are out of your control a little bit, and then you've just got to roll with the punches.
Yep, and she definitely did.
Do the best you can.
Now Derek's going to tell us the story.
Okay, so just a little bit of backstory to this one. So this one happened when I was in 10th grade, and I had just gotten my driver's license.
Are you sure you don't want to remain anonymous?
No,
Was it so long ago it's okay to tell it now?
yeah. I thought about remaining anonymous, but... Anonymous. But, okay, so I was in 10th grade, just had gotten my driver's license, and there was a girl that I liked, and I started liking her towards the end of 9th grade. So I liked her for about 6 to 8 months at this point, and she was the first person I asked on a date. And so I was nervous because I was a new driver, but then also nervous because it was going to be my first date. That night I was doing everything I could to get ready, look nice. So I called her. I said, hey, I'm on my way. I'll be there in just a few minutes. And so I drove to her house to pick her up. And on the way there, I was getting even more nervous, and I started feeling a bunch of gas start to form. And I was thinking, oh no, like I need to do my best to
not toot in the car.
And I was thinking, oh no, I'm going to be in trouble. Her house was about a 10-minute drive away, and I was about 5 minutes away, and I was holding it in. I was doing the best I could. But the closer I got to her house, the more nervous I got. And then I thought, I can't hold this in any longer. I'm going to have to just let it go. Just do it.
Just let it all out.
Yeah. And I thought, I'm far enough away from her house that if I roll all the windows down, by the time I get to her house, I shouldn't be able to smell a thing, right?
You shouldn't have been thinking.
I know, I shouldn't have been thinking. Bad things happen when I think. So
I can vouch for that. No.
Yeah, but that's for another episode. So about 5 minutes away, decide to just let loose, roll the windows down, hoping it all just blows out, and then you can't tell anything ever happened in that car when she and I get in the car after I pick her up. So I get to her house. I'm not smelling anything in the car, so I'm thinking I'm in the clear. I go up, get her, talk to her parents for a minute. We get back in the car, and as we get back into the car, I kind of look over her way because I want to see her facial expression. I want to see if she shows any sign of kind of, like, there's a stinky smell, or what is that? I look over, I can see her scrunch her nose a little bit, and I was thinking, oh no, she probably smells something. And I didn't have an air freshener in the car, unfortunately. I thought about putting one in earlier that day, and I was kicking myself because I thought, dang it, I should have done that. And so...
But it could have maybe mixed bad with the air freshener.
That's true.
It could have smelled more
funky. Could have
funky.
created something toxic even.
Yeah, well, I think it was already toxic.
Scents. Oh, yeah. It probably couldn't have been more toxic than it already was. So we drive to the movie theater. We're going to be watching a movie for our date. And the whole drive, we don't really say a whole lot to each other. So it was a little bit awkward, and I was thinking maybe it's awkward because she can smell something, and she's thinking, oh, like, this guy is actually kind of gross. Because if she did smell something, then it was obvious that it was me to her.
Yeah.
Because I was the only one in the car. So we get to the theater, we go in, we sit down, and just a few minutes into the movie, I start to feel some more gas coming on, and I'm thinking, oh no, I thought I was through the worst of it.
That nervous gas never ends.
Exactly. It's never ending for me. And so I'm thinking, I'm not going to sit here and try to hold it in throughout this whole movie because we were only about 10 minutes in. And I said, hey, I need to head out for just a second. I'll be back in a few minutes. And
Wait. Sorry, date. I need to go fart some more.
Yeah. Hey, she might have respected the honesty if I could have been that blunt.
Doubt it. Not first date. No.
Yeah. Excuse me, I need to go blow out for a minute. So I leave for a few minutes, come back, we watch the movie. I can't remember if the movie was good or bad. Luckily, nothing else happened during the movie. Seemed like I was kind of over the worst of it at that point. Took her home, and yeah, after that whole experience, we just remained friends. We didn't go on any more dates after that. I don't know if it had to do with our experience that night and what she may or may not have smelled, but...
She friend-zoned you after that.
Yeah, seriously. You're in the friend zone, Stinky. But that was,
You didn't think of blaming it on like your parents or your sister?
no, I didn't.
Somebody used this car before me.
Yeah, I should have thought about a way I could play it off, but yeah,
First
just kind of
date
had to live with
gas.
it. And with this girl, that was the last date that we went on. We stayed kind of friends throughout high school, but that was the first and only date. And
That's
I don't know
okay.
if that experience had anything to do with it, but
Well, you
that's how
married
things
me
go.
instead.
Yeah, everything. I think everything worked out pretty well. So things are good. That was that experience, and so that was super embarrassing. Nobody wants that to happen on their first date. I don't know how many first dates actually go really smooth. I wasn't expecting mine to be picture perfect and really smooth or anything like that, but I certainly wasn't expecting to have some kind of a gas problem. But hey, I was the gas man.
I didn't know you had such a nervous stomach.
And that's something I still have, but yeah.
You still have gas problems?
Hey. But I'm going to go ahead and leave that story there, and we will go ahead and move on to your next one.
Yeah, this one doesn't have bodily yucks. And this
It's
is
the exception. It's the exception to the episode.
It's the only one in the episode that doesn't. So we're gonna take it back to when I was 9 years old. And every summer my sister and I would go with a group of friends to the local swimming pool. And just to preface it, I was a shy little kid who didn't like having attention on them very often at all.
Mm-hmm.
And
Understand that.
I was terrified of heights. And
Are you still terrified of heights?
Yes.
Yeah. Just to make that clear.
Just take me to the local theme park. I can't do it. No, I love the local theme park, but the high rides I leave for everyone else.
Yeah.
So I was scared of heights, and this pool, it wasn't one of those pools with a low dive and a high dive, or a low dive, medium, high. This pool only had a high dive. And all of the neighborhood friends that we went swimming with decided they were going to be jumping off the high dive. And I'm a good swimmer, but I hate heights.
Mm-hmm. But you wanted to be cool like the neighborhood kids.
Yeah, total peer pressure. Like, I can do it. I think, I don't remember if one of them talked me into it or if I did it myself. Like, you can do this. Go jump off the high dive. Or maybe I saw people doing cool flips. I don't know. So I get in line to go on the high dive, and there's tons of kids in line. And I finally get up, and the kid in front of me jumps off, and I climb up over onto the board. And I take a look out, and it was too high for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
sometimes you don't realize exactly how high it is until you get up there.
yeah.
Like from the ground, it looks like, oh, I can do that. That's not very high. But then you climb that ladder, get up there, and you're looking down, and you're like, wow, this is like 2 or 3 times higher than it looks like on ground.
Yeah, and it was. So I get up, I look, and I'm just like, oh, man, never mind.
Scratch that. The fear set in.
The fear set in. I'm fairly shy, so especially when I was little. So it was already embarrassing. Like, oh, freak, everybody's looking at me. Oh, I couldn't do it. I'm so scared.
And you know how that feeling is when all eyes are on you and there's that pressure? And you're like, uh-oh, I've walked up here. Now I've got to do something about it because I don't want to be a wimp in front of all these people that are watching me.
Yeah, and the ladder, so I turn around, and I'm about to go down the ladder, and I hear over the microphone, like, don't you dare climb down that ladder.
The lifeguard put you on blast.
Yep. The whole pool looks at me. I mean, nobody's having fun anymore. They're just waiting to see my reaction and what I do. And, well, that's the only diving board and ladder there, so I knew she was talking to me. And now the whole pool was watching me fail.
All eyes on you. Center of attention.
Is she going to go off or be a chicken and climb down? And that's the thing, too, is all the kids in line wanting to go off the diving board were on the ladder and, then a line behind it. So they were already pretty much at the top, go.
Yeah.
I want to do my cool trick. Why don't you go jump off? So I didn't climb. I didn't climb back down. And I went and I looked out again and it was like, can't do it. So I go to climb back down and she's like, nope, you don't get to climb down that ladder. You're not doing it. And, I could have died. The whole pool, people weren't swimming anymore. They were just standing there watching me.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, probably about 5 minutes, she was like, if you jump off, I'll give you a candy bar. And
candy bar, is that enough incentive?
Not for
For
this.
one of your fears?
No. Not
You
for...
should have said, I'll raise your candy bar to $100.
I should have. I should have bartered.
She's like, it takes me the whole summer to make that.
Well, oh man, I didn't want the candy bar. Although I love sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it.
Sugar's worth doing a lot of things for, I think.
Well, I didn't want it, but everybody was staring at me. And now the kids on the ladder were like, you don't get to come down. So I couldn't go down the ladder. I only had one choice. So I finally jumped off the high dive into the water. It was probably me crouching down.
Yeah.
But it was humiliating for this shy kid to have the entire pool on a hot summer day. The place was packed, and she made sure everybody knew that this girl was scared to jump.
Oh, man. What you should have said right before you jumped, you should have looked at the lifeguard and said, I hope you're ready to come get me. And what you should
I don't know how to swim. No.
You should have acted like, so after you jumped, you should have acted like you were drowning so the lifeguard would have to jump in. And then right after the lifeguard jumped in, just swim to the edge. And you would have totally trolled the lifeguard. Made them get wet.
I was 9.
But that's what they get for putting the pressure on you. Right?
Yeah, but I was 9. I wasn't thinking that far in advance.
Those are things you don't think of till you're an adult.
Yeah.
Or after the situation.
Well, luckily she went through with her offer and I got my 3 Musketeers.
Nice.
Yeah, she was really nice, but I was honestly irritated.
Yeah.
Right when it was happening.
Yeah. It is irritating. Nobody likes to be put on the spot like that.
Yeah, definitely not. So
after that, you didn't have any more nerves on the high dive?
I didn't go on the high dive anymore.
That was the one and only.
Yeah, I'm a low dive kind of person.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
I don't know how the Olympians do it.
Yeah.
They're crazy.
The highest I've done is the first platform, which is above the high dive. I don't know how many feet up it is, but the Olympic divers, they do it off the 3rd platform. So I was on the 1st platform, and that was high enough for me. I've never done higher than that and don't need to do higher than that.
Says the guy who holds his arms up as he's doing loop-de-loops on the big roller coasters while I'm sitting there saying prayers I don't die.
That's how you get the best experience out of those thrill rides. You got to put your arms up, especially when you're doing loops and crazy corkscrews and things like that. That's
not this Mama
that's
5.
the fun stuff.
Well, I guess it's...
Well, good job. I'm proud of you for following through with that. As a 9-year-old, that's pretty scary. I think my first high dive was when I was 13 or 14, so...
So you're saying I'm braver than you?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe I'm admitting that, possibly.
No, I'm not.
Psych.
I'm excited for this next story.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? I can tell you firsthand that starting a podcast was a great decision, but it can feel overwhelming if you don't know how to get started. That's where Buzzsprout comes in. Buzzsprout is the easiest and best way to launch a professional podcast. In fact, it's so good they've already helped over 100,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout will get your podcast into every major podcasting platform, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. You also get a great-looking podcast website, audio players you can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening, tools to promote your episodes, and on and on. Plus, Buzzsprout publishes new blog posts, podcast episodes, and YouTube videos every week, so you can learn the ins and outs of podcasting from the people that know it best. To start your very own podcast and get a $20 Amazon gift card, follow the link in the show notes. This lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you and helps support our show. Buzzsprout, the easiest way to start a podcast. Now, back to more embarrassing stories. Okay, so this last story is really hilarious, and this one is an experience my sister had. It happened about 10 years ago, so she did give me a fair warning when she sent me this story. And she said, warning, if you're eating, don't read this. So I want to give you guys that same warning that if you're eating something, you might want to hold off for a minute. It's not too bad, but if you have a weak stomach, it might be something that makes you sick. So this was about 10 years ago. She and her husband were on a cruise. Their cruise was in Cabo San Lucas, and I've never been to Cabo San Lucas, but I've only heard amazing things about it. I've heard just Mexico overall was a really beautiful place, and they had an awesome experience on this cruise, but...
Oh, no, there's a big but in there.
This certainly was an embarrassing moment for her. So, Leslie and I actually have never been on a cruise. We've had a couple of opportunities, but there was one that we were signed up for. We had to pull out of it.
I was pregnant.
Yeah, she was pregnant. It
and
was
sick.
in the first year of our marriage, and we realized, hey, this isn't the best time right now. So we'll do it another time, and that other time we just haven't gotten around to it yet.
So when the kids are grown.
Yeah, exactly. Like anyone I've talked to that's been on a cruise, they want to make it the best experience they can. And so my sister and her husband, they decided, well, we're down here in beautiful Cabo San Lucas. Let's do some parasailing. And so neither of them had done it before, and it was their first experience. So they loaded onto the boat that was going to take them out to the water, and there were 2 other couples with them. So there were going to be 6 of them parasailing.
And then a driver, right?
Driver, yeah. So 7 people total, 3 couples. My sister said as they were driving out to where they were going to parasail, the driver was driving really fast. He was making quick turns. He was hitting some waves.
So it got choppy.
It got choppy. And so they were bouncing up and down, going all over the place, and she started to feel her stomach turn. She started to feel really sick, and I know that feeling because I get that same thing. I think it's in our genes. I get super motion sick, especially as I've gotten older. So I know exactly the kind of feeling that she was having.
When the water's choppy, that's understandable.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's any easier. I don't know if it makes it easier if you're driving or if you're sitting in the water, just sitting in one spot, kind of bouncing up and down. But she was feeling way sick, and they were driving, making a lot of turns. And so...
Let's just preface this. This is Derek's sister, and Derek can't even sit in the passenger seat for 3 minutes without starting to get motion sick.
That is sad, but definitely true. If I'm not the driver, I start to feel really sick. And there aren't many instances where I have to be the passenger, but if I'm a passenger, especially in the front seat, then I am not lasting any longer than about a 5 or 10 minute drive. That's how bad it is. But so a few minutes into the ride, she began to feel really nauseous. So they arrived at the point where they were going to parasail, and the other couples started taking their turns on the parasail first. And my sister said the whole time that that the couples were parasailing, she was throwing up in the boat, just leaning over the side, throwing up all over, and luckily not getting it in the boat, so she made it outside of the boat. but super sick.
I can't imagine that. That would be the worst.
Yeah.
Like everybody's there excited and you're Ralphing
Yeah, exactly.
over the edge of the boat.
And she said she didn't think any of the couples saw her throwing up over the side of the boat. So she was trying to kind of do her best to, keep it secretive because you don't want to show everybody that you're just losing it and vomiting everywhere.
Yeah. Calling the sharks all in.
Exactly, yeah. So she threw up the whole time she was waiting to parasail. And then when it was finally her turn, she still felt nauseous, but she was determined to get her money's worth because they had already paid, obviously.
Yeah.
And she still wanted to have that experience even though she wasn't feeling well.
Well, I understand it's kind of, one of those once in a lifetime or very few in a lifetime experiences.
Yeah.
So I'd still want to do it even if I was sick, but...
Yeah, exactly. To her credit, she went for it still, got strapped into the harness, and as she was going up into the air, she felt really sick again. She couldn't hold it in, and she just started throwing up. So she's up however many feet in the air, and she's just letting loose and throwing up, and chunks are flying all over the place. They're going down into the water.
Oh, no.
And luckily, she wasn't throwing up on the people below her. I mean, that would have probably been a better experience.
For you. For you.
That would have been a better story to tell, but...
I'm shocked it's not on YouTube.
That would have been the perfect thing to videotape.
You know what?
Because everybody would love to watch something like that.
It could be on YouTube.
Yeah, you never know. I'll have to ask her if anybody had their phone out, because if they did, then I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Seriously.
And she said it was so embarrassing because everybody was watching her from below. They could see plain as day the vomit flying around, flying through the air into the water. And when she was finally done and came back into the boat, her husband told her that a couple of the people that were in the boat said, "I'm really glad I went before she did."
I would have been glad too.
Yeah, serious. And she said she could have died when her husband told her that they said that. But that's, super embarrassing experience.
Throwing up in front of people is not a fun thing to do.
Oh, no. And that's not how you want to describe your first experience parasailing, but...
Or going on a cruise.
Yeah, serious. But it makes for a good story for us to be able to share. So thanks for sending that to us. All right, so that does it for this episode. We'd like to thank both Melinda and my sister for submitting their stories to us.
And if you want to send in your own embarrassing stories, you can at...
embarrassingpodcast.com. If you go to our website, we have a little form you can fill out, and you can submit your story to us. You can remain anonymous if you want. You don't have to put any personal information or anything like that. If you want to include your name, feel free to. But if you want to be anonymous, that's totally cool.
Or make up a name.
Yeah, make up a name.
Because not all of us want to share who we are.
Right. We understand that. We'd love to have you share your stories with us so that we can share them on future episodes.
Make sure you join us every week on Tuesday to catch the next episode of Embarrassing Stories Podcast.
We look forward to you joining us on future episodes, and so we hope you subscribe. We'd love to have you along for this fun and embarrassing ride.
Until next time,
have fun,
be safe,
and go create some stories we can share. Have a great week.